Texas has become the center of several significant national policy debates this week, with legal and political maneuvers drawing widespread attention. In a move that reignites controversy over transgender inclusion in sports, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has filed a lawsuit against U.S. Masters Swimming, alleging the organization engaged in misleading and deceptive practices by permitting transgender women to compete in women's races during a recent competition in San Antonio. The lawsuit references at least one transgender athlete who achieved first place in multiple events. Paxton's legal filing accuses the swimming group of creating confusion by presenting certain events as exclusively for biological women, while not adequately disclosing that the field included transgender competitors. According to the lawsuit, this amounted to a betrayal of consumer trust through the misrepresentation of the nature and fairness of the competition. U.S. Masters Swimming has publicly stated that it is cooperating fully with the Attorney General's investigation. The broader debate over transgender participation in sports remains a contentious issue nationwide. While some advocate for inclusivity, others cite concerns about fairness and competition integrity, which has led to a patchwork of differing policies across sporting organizations. The outcome of this lawsuit could establish new precedents impacting adult sporting events and fuel further dialogue over gender policies in athletics rules across the United States. Turning to the realm of politics, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has convened a special session of the state legislature beginning July 21st to address efforts to redraw Texas's congressional map. The session, which is scheduled to last up to 30 days and will be held in Austin, is focused on making the districts more competitive and aligning them with constitutional requirements raised by the U.S. Department of Justice. In addition to redistricting, lawmakers will also consider measures aimed at improving flood preparedness and the state's early warning infrastructure. While the Republican leadership describes the move as a response to legal and demographic realities, Democrats have raised concerns that the redistricting push could undercut their political standing. Some lawmakers caution that aggressive redrawing of districts could backfire in future electoral cycles. Redistricting battles in Texas are not new, but this latest effort reflects the continuing, high-stakes struggle over political representation in a rapidly evolving and diversifying state. Meanwhile, debates over U.S. immigration policy have intensified in the wake of fresh civil unrest and high-profile crimes involving non-citizens. In California, the epicenter of the ongoing immigration debate, recent protests and riots have led to accusations that the crisis at the southern border under President Biden's administration has fueled broader lawlessness. Heather MacDonald, a fellow at the Manhattan Institute and critic of current immigration policies, contends that increasingly permissive border practices have undermined the rule of law and allowed a climate in which activists and protesters feel empowered to disrupt public order. MacDonald argues that persistent large-scale migration creates challenges for cultural assimilation, warning that ongoing demographic shifts may pose long-term difficulties for the nation. She advocates for implementing immigration caps to allow better assimilation, along with reforms to the agricultural sector and stricter limitations on chain migration. While supporters of more open immigration policies cite economic and humanitarian imperatives, critics are concerned that insufficient enforcement and administrative confusion have set the stage for renewed unrest in Los Angeles and potentially other cities. The discussion has become even more charged in light of a violent incident in New York City involving an undocumented immigrant. President Donald Trump has publicly castigated the prior Biden administration after an off-duty Customs and Border Protection officer was shot in the face during an apparent robbery gone awry. The suspect, 21-year-old Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez, is a Dominican national with a criminal history who, according to officials, had been previously detained by Border Patrol in Arizona in April 2023, but was released into the U.S. rather than deported. Homeland Security indicated that Nunez had outstanding warrants for kidnapping in Massachusetts, in addition to prior felony arrests, and had further charges pending in New York. Both the officer and the suspect were wounded during the altercation, although the officer is reportedly expected to recover. Trump has used the incident to amplify criticism of his predecessor, arguing that lax border policies have resulted in criminal incursions and violence in American cities. New York City's Mayor Eric Adams confirmed added charges against the suspect and indicated that city and federal officials are coordinating to ensure further prosecution. As these developments have unfolded, the federal government continues to pursue a complex enforcement strategy. The Department of Homeland Security is supplementing enforcement efforts with technological tools and incentives to encourage self-deportation, including a mobile app, offers of travel assistance, and options for individuals to return legally at a future date. However, this multifaceted approach has drawn scrutiny from both sides, with progressive leaders like Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass opposing federal immigration sweeps as destabilizing and detrimental to immigrant communities. Bass has pledged to use city resources to safeguard residents from what she labels chaotic federal approaches. Still, as street protests continue and federal officials press forward with increased immigration raids and arrests of individuals with criminal records, lawmakers and citizens alike are left contending with the balancing act between national security, public safety, and the nation's long-standing tradition of immigration. On the national economic front, U.S. trade policy remains a high-profile topic, as Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick confirmed that the United States intends to maintain a 10% baseline tariff on imports from smaller countries that do not have significant trade imbalances or barriers with the U.S. Despite recent suggestions from President Trump that tariffs could increase, Lutnick clarified that the administration currently does not plan to raise general tariffs on these nations, which include many countries in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa. Larger trading partners with significant surpluses, however, have been subject to much higher reciprocal rates, in some cases as high as 50%. The use of tariffs as a tool for influencing both trade and foreign relations continues to divide economists and policymakers, with supporters citing the need for a level playing field and critics warning of possible retaliatory measures and impacts on global supply chains. In sum, the past week has seen a convergence of headline-grabbing issues in Texas and on the national stage, spanning legal battles over gender policy in sports, dramatic episodes underscoring tensions in immigration enforcement, politically charged debates over redistricting and electoral representation, and the ongoing effort to recalibrate the country's approach to international trade. As these stories develop, they underscore the persistent complexity and interconnection of social, economic,